Hey everybody, John from IPT. Today we have a Subaru 4EAT. Looks like it's out of a Forester or something on the WRX. So probably an '04 Forester. Um, this thing's kind of a mess. Not only does it look like it was pulled out of a lake, we have some other issues. This is our hub that goes from the torque converter into the pump. And as you see, it kind of spun out of there. You can see the wear here. In conjunction with that, this is supposed to be part of that, which is not. And beyond that, you take a look, this bushing here is pretty leveled from all this stuff running around in there and cutting it to pieces. So we're going to take this further apart and see what other kind of disasters we have inside. Stay tuned. As is typical, I'm going to start with taking the back off because there's a nut under here on the pinion shaft that we're going to have to take off to take the front apart. Hopefully this transmission is going to be rebuilt. It may be one of the couple a year that we've run into that it's not. We might have to build something else for this car. And this thing's plenty rusty, so I'm assuming it's going to be some massaging, let's say, to get it apart. Stay tuned while I beat the crap out of this thing off camera. That was kind of staged, but you know where we're coming from here. So a lot of what happens if you're working on transmissions, you have dissimilar metals. So you're going to have steel and aluminum, and you know there's kind of electrical charges that form, and it kind of makes them one piece. Anyway, this is our all-wheel drive clutch pack. So this thing is always a front-wheel drive. It's turning. This pinion shaft goes up to your front wheels, and now your system that transfers the power to the wheels that slip to the wheels that grip is just a question of a solenoid pulsing this clutch pack on as needed and sending that power to the back wheels little by little. Not an ideal system because it's not proactive, it's reactive. So when you guys are sitting there and you have upgraded vehicles and bigger turbos and you're spinning the tires, this thing's trying to add power to your back wheels with varying degrees of success. This looks pretty good though. These are in nice shape. And it's another important thing. If you ever have to mess with these clutch packs, some people do them in the car. The common problem is tight corner braking. They'll kind of feel like an all-wheel drive that's stuck in all-wheel drive, which is what it is. So if you're in a parking lot or making tight turns, your car will start hopping around. So the solution to that is usually solenoid and these clutch packs. Also in here, these teeth tend to beat into the hub a lot. This isn't as bad as some of them are, but sometimes you have to replace this piece or clean it up a little bit. So we have another barrel bearing there, a Torrington bearing there. And this is just a gear and a clutch hub. Now for this, there's a special Subaru tool, but you could also find a socket to fit on there. I'm trying to see if the part number's on this tool. Oh yeah, here it is. I doubt you're going to be able to see it, but we'll try and zoom in on it and maybe I'll get it in the description. But again, if you guys are just doing one or two of these things here and there, I would just use a regular socket. Oh, and another thing, this rubber bonyac, as we'll call it, don't forget this, because that sandwich is in between here and here. Sends the oil through this tube, down through here, into this area, and it feeds the clutch drum in between these two Teflon rings. So if we don't put this back in, you will no longer have an all-wheel drive. You will have made your car a front-wheel drive. And at the factory, this nut has little areas here where they beat it in to these corresponding areas to keep it from getting loose. I might give it a couple shots, but I'm kind of more of a fan of Loctite in this situation. I've been Loctiting them for 20 years and I've never really had one come loose. All right, now we're going to take off the front differential case. So this is going to be a matter of taking some bolts out and probably some more hammer work, because these front differential cases really tend to get stuck on there pretty well. And again, this thing was in the bottom of Lake Michigan or something. Isn't that where this is from? Who knows? Whatever, it was at the bottom of a lake. I'm going to do this so you guys can see better. These bottom ones you typically have to wrench out. Just a 14mm wrench. Peek my head under there, make sure it's not going on the floor. No, we're going into a bucket, we're good. Some of these are tight all the way out. Unfortunately, there's no good way to get these other than a wrench. So please be patient. Okay, so these are out. And this diff case is held onto this component, which I don't know what Subaru calls it, but I just call it the pump because the pump is housed in there. But it's not only a pump, it's a pinion housing, differential housing, bell housing, whatever you want to call it. But it's siliconed right onto here, and it usually, this part comes off pretty easily. This part most certainly will not. Batter up. Always be careful when doing this. Ken, I think there's some other shit busted in here keeping this from coming off. What do you think?
I don't know, maybe the differential.
We used to have a term for this stuff. It's called SBB, which is an acronym for shit be broke. Oh, not terrible, but this it's got water intrusion. Well, this is all rusty here. If we can see that.
Right, can.
Okay. And let's well, we have better light, we can get a better look at what that bushing looks like. It's all tore up. Oh, and further to that, I don't know if we'll be able to capture this. This torque converter hub is kind of like a little mushroom shape to it right now. This thing we're not going to be able to fix, I don't think. Good riddance. Okay, this is another important piece. I just had comments on another 5EAT Subaru video. It was a gentleman in Brazil, and he was having ATF leak into the differential. And I guess, have to go over with him. It's not a job we're working on. We're just trying to help him out. But go over with him the places where this fluid can mix together. So place number one, keep this in mind. We have a little rubber piece here. That engages into here. And it flows all the way from here. Okay, so when fluid through this tube, transmission fluid, we have gear oil here on the outside, but transmission fluid exists in here, flows past this bushing, and all transmissions have this drain back. There's got to be a drain back area between the bushing and the seal, so it drains back through here, through that hole, into here, and then it drops into your transmission pan. That's place number one. Place number two is this thing, which you can replace. It's got a rubber seal on either end, right? So this is still keeping your transmission fluid and gear oil separated. And the third place, which we can't see yet, is you have a housing on the back side of this. So there's a seal facing in each direction. One seal's holding gear oil here. The other seal is holding ATF and the transmission. And further to that, the seal has a housing, kind of looks like this. We'll show you on the other side, but there's an O-ring that's under there too. And that thing sometimes gets hard like a piece of uncooked linguine in there, and it doesn't really seal too well at that point. That said, let's keep going. Some more 14 millimeters. All right, so the best bet is to hit this pinion nut from the backside and get the pinion out of the, what we're going to call the pump housing. For those of us that are impatient, we could screw the nut back on and really hit it some more. And I'm going to assume, although I've never seen it, we have a couple threads here. So I'm assuming at the factory level, there's some kind of tool that sits on here with a screw where it might grab onto this gear and push the pinion shaft out. But, well, we rely on brute force. Oops. Okay. So here's our pinion. But this is rusty too. This is not something you want to reuse. This could give you some gear noise. Definitely no bueno. And these are the two seals I was referring to. You see one faces in each direction. This aluminum housing also is going to have an O-ring under here. That's a whole nother story. This you got to be careful with. And what the main issue is that these dowel pins stick this thing in there. So this dowel pin, you could kind of get behind. We have another one where we kind of can't do that. Not that that's helping too much anyway. This might be a good place to pause, and I'll beat the crap out of it off camera. Okay, that's about right. Now, get that out of the way for a moment. We have our pump, and this is going to be pretty cool. This is the housing that I mentioned. As we discussed before, the stator shaft, this goes into your torque converter, and your torque converter stator rides on it. And your stator and the torque converter has a one-way clutch in it. So it has the ability to turn only in one direction. So, regards to stall speed and torque converter operation, stall speed is the point at which all the components in the torque converter start turning together. Your stator, your impeller, and your turbine. When that happens, you don't really have torque converter action. You don't have torque multiplication. You just have a fluidic coupling between engine and transmission. So where I'm going with that is if your stator shaft is busted, you have no stator action. So you have no torque converter action. You don't have torque multiplication from a standstill. So if you have a car that's got this broken, or the one-way clutch of the torque converter stator is broken, it's going to feel like you're dragging an anchor until you hit about 30 miles an hour. Then the car will feel like it's normal. But it's kind of busted. Let's see if we can even get it out. So let's do a little CSI here. You all see how that works or doesn't work. Now this is your pump, and this looks a little beat up. See this pump gear, because it starts braking, starts to push into here. So this surface should look just like this, nice and shiny, but you can see these are both like a little burnt, and that's from this gear getting levered down into there. So more garbage. Then under here is your two seals, and there's an O-ring. I'm really probably not going to mess with this because I'm throwing it in the garbage anyway. So there you have that aspect. So I've done other 4EAT videos. So I might not get into the whole shooting match here. But this is your multi-purpose drum here. So these are your reverse input clutches. Those are your driving clutches when you put it in reverse. Underneath that, we have high clutches. And those come on in third gear. And these clutches look a hell of a lot nicer than the rest of the transmission. Look, we still have writing on them. But obviously, the other things that happen to this can and do cause operational problems. So we have a couple clutch pistons in here. And again, there's other 4EAT videos if you guys want to reference them where we go a little bit further. Clutch hub. Another clutch hub. It's for your 2-4 clutches. And these are your 2/4 clutches themselves. Known as 2/4 clutches because they're on in second and fourth. So you guys that are trans builders and you're wondering about the power flow of this thing, it's the same as a 4L60 or 700R4, either of those as far as if you were going to look at an application chart. Front planetary, bearing, sun gear, bearing. So there's both the ring gear for that planetary, and it's a planetary of its own. Another bearing and another ring gear. We have a bearing race around here. Now these are known as low clutches, and they come on when you put the car in gear. So they don't really do too much except clamp on when you put that shifter in drive, and they stay on for the whole ride, giving you forward. Now, as far as the rest of this stuff, I don't know if I want to monkey around with taking the valve body off so I could get this all out. Obviously, we're going to have to do that at a later date, but I know nothing exciting or noteworthy has happened back here on this transmission. You know, this video was kind of just designed to show you the damage. So, I think I'm going to leave it at that, especially considering this has got pink silicone, which means nobody's ever touched it before, and it's just going to be more beating and hammering, which you guys probably don't need to see. So this is what we got so far. Maybe we'll have some more info once we put this together. But more than likely, I'm going to get another transmission to work on for this customer, because this is what we call a steaming pile. All right, so take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.